Club, and you're listening to another episode of the Hashtag Kangaroos podcast.
Whatever I've been through, the moment I see you, things start looking over.
Welcome to another episode. My name is Dean Vasic. You can find me on X at Hashtag Kangas, Instagram Hashtag Kangaroos podcast. Tonight, I'm back doing the Getting to Know You episodes, and I have a very special guest, Steve Brither, with me tonight. Steve, you've been a North Melbourne fan for a very long time. Let's start with how did you start following North Melbourne?
Yeah, thanks, Dean. First of all, thanks for the opportunity having me on your podcast. I've been looking forward to that. And question is, how do I start following North Melbourne? Well, I mainly started playing foot in the backyard with my next door neighbour, Philip McAuliffe, who's these days involved in the greyhound racing industry. We still catch up from lunch from a few times a year. But Philip was 4 years older than me, and he followed North Melbourne. And we used to have a kick in the backyard most nights of the week, and he used to wear his North Melbourne jumper, his colours and everything. And North were pretty good in their mid-70s to late 1977 when North won the flag. So my whole family, they're all Essendon supporters, and I didn't like the colours, the red and black. And we all know the North Melbourne Essendon rivalry these days, so thank goodness for that. So I'm the black sheep of the family. I'm the only one that follows North Melbourne, thanks to my next-door neighbour. And watching when we won the 1977 grand final against Collingwood, the first ever televised grand final, we won. I was obsessed, and me and my neighbour were just jumping up and down when North Melbourne won the flag back in 77. I was a 7-year-old back then. And then he would take me to Arden Street with him to watch the Mighty Roos, and then the rest of and the rest is history. Basically, I've become more and more passionate as I've got older, and I was always a nutter as a kid following the mighty Kangas. And to top it off, when I was in year 7 at Ardea High School in 1982, my school teacher was Xavier Tanner, who actually played in the centre in the 1977 Premiership win against Collingwood. I was fanatical supporter back then, the only North supporter in the class, and he adored me. And he looked after me. So I'd meet him at the ground before the game, sometimes at Arden Street. And and that was a great memory to have a North Melbourne player being my school teacher back in year 7 at Ardea High School. So it's a long time ago. But it was great.
Yeah. Well, we won't count how many years that's going back, but no, look, it's a good story there, Steve. It's good to meet someone that's a bit older than me too. It's started following. I mean, I've only got Mark Hello to compare to. He was a big supporter of the 70s as well. Yep. And you definitely picked the right colours. You don't want to get that red and black sort of stuff. So, but well, I suppose the last few years, it's been a bit topsy turvy to say the least. And how long you been a member for, Steve?
I've been a member for almost 40 years. So I just received my membership pack last week, actually. And I'm up to 38 consecutive years, and had a break for a year or two when I was travelling overseas. But all in all, my guess, I reckon about 44 years all up, I would say, being a North Melbourne member.
Yeah, nice. That's a long time. Memberships weren't too popular back then. Going back 40 years ago, I think you would have been probably one of 100, to be honest with you. Steve. I remember when I first joined, there was only about 6,000 of us in the mid 90s.
Yep.
Obviously, it's a lifeblood now, and the clubs rely on memberships these days. And
that's right.
Yeah,
and we've done extremely well to reach 50,000 members too. I mean,
particularly the last few years. Yeah,
Exactly.
Oh, there's a lot more options these days, isn't there? Like you got the 3-game ones in it,
interstate ones,
Tasmania as well. I mean, we'll probably lose all of them.
I know.
So I don't know how many of them there are, but
I think by memory about 5,000 or 6,000.
Yeah, there was something like that. Yeah, so probably lose a fair chunk of that. You'd have to think.
You would expect, yeah.
Yeah, so you would have grown up. I mean, you were probably when you first started going, you probably would have seen a few games at Arden Street.
My word.
Yeah, then transitioning in the 80s to MCG, late 80s, 90s, and even early 2000s.
Correct.
We play a lot of games now at Marvel. Do you like watching games there, or did you prefer the G back in the day, or even in the 70s watching games at our home turf, Arden Street?
Mid-70s till 1985 was our last game at Arden Street against Richmond. I remember that clearly. used to love going to Arden Street. We'd catch the train, get off at the North Melbourne station and walk to the ground, and you'd watch the reserves. You'd get there half-time of the reserves game. You'd watch the reserves and watch the seniors. And North's always had a small membership base, but back at Arden Street in those days, it was parochial, it was fanatical. I mean, we were successful. Players like Malcolm Blight, Wayne Schimmelbusch, David Dench, Gary Dempsey. You can just go on to the Cracker Brothers. I mean, North back then were attractive. We were popular because we were winning in the finals each year. We had Barassi as coach, and then Malcolm Blight as coach, and Barry Cable as coach. So North were quite attractive back then. But yeah, and then once we moved to MCG for Friday night football, I was there the first ever game in 1985 against Collingwood. We lost by about 7 or 8 goals, but it was John Kennedy's first game as coach. And then I reckon I really missed a Friday night game at the MCG till the AFL decided to take them off us, which still annoys me. No.
Yeah, we only get one a year, the token Good Friday one now. So, yeah,
that's right.
I mean, I suppose that comes with not having much success on the field. You lose all the big games. Are you excited next year we get a Thursday night game?
Yes,
Steve?
I'll be there. Looking forward.
It's against Essendon too, isn't it? Yeah,
it is too, against the arch rivals. So that'll be a full house at Marvel, and hopefully we get the 4 points that day. It's been a while since we last beat Essendon, but I'm looking forward to next year. I can tell you now.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've beaten anyone. A lot of teams have had the wood over us the last few years. But, you go back a long time, 40-odd years, 44 years you're saying as a member. Who are some of the greatest players you've ever seen? You've seen, I should say, in the last 40 to 50 years, I guess.
At North Melbourne, definitely. Look, we all know Wayne Carey. I think everybody's favourite past play would be Wayne Carey. Dominant centre forward and captain of our 2 premiership teams. Always loved Keith Gregg on the wing, and towards the end of his career, he played off half-back. Beautiful to watch, Keith Gregg. Beautiful to watch. Great footballer. And then there's a mercurial Malcolm Blight, number 15. He was my first footy idol. Had his number on my back. Loved Malcolm Blight. Started as a midfielder and finished up playing forward and kicked 100 goals as a full forward. Yeah. And it was amazing. Then it was the David Dench, one of the best fullbacks ever. Unlucky not to get a gig in the team of the century for the AFL. And then we had players like Gary Dempsey, the Cracker Brothers. Just goes on and on and on. We had so many good players at North Melbourne back in the 70s and early 80s under Ron Barassi.
Someone's chimed in. They've come in with Digby Morrell.
Oh, Digby Morrell. Centre forward, West Australian, number 32. I remember him. He was early 2000s he came on board. He played for us in a few years. I think everybody just loved his name, Digby Morrell. Yeah,
he's still around. He's still around. He's around Strathmore or something.
Correct.
Around that area.
Correct.
So, he did all right for himself. Was part of the Corey McKernan trade when we got him back. So
correct.
Him and David Teague. Went back to Carlton, but
that's right. Quarterback. That's right.
Yeah, but it's hard to go past Carey in the 90s. I don't go all the way back to the 70s, but it's definitely very hard for me to see a better player and a more impactful player than Carey.
And a true leader as well. I mean, they all fight him, even like on the social scene. He'd organise everything, and everyone would just follow Wayne Carey.
Yeah. Oh, look, we built a team around him, and
definitely.
And it worked wonders. We won 2 flags.
Probably
saved the club too, Steve. In all fairness, we were a club that was going downhill, almost similar to Fitzroy. And without him, I think
I agree.
Probably wouldn't have had a club to follow. To be honest,
I agree. And the good thing about Wayne Carey is if he did a market, it dropped to ground. It'd be like Peter Bell, Shannon Grant, Brett Allison. They just crumb, and they kicked it 2 or 3 goals a week. So.
We had Winston Abraham there for a few years. Around his feet. We had some good, mid-sized players around him. Really good crummers.
Yeah. And those were the days. It was the days when players would come to North. Like Shannon Grant chose to come to North Melbourne.
That's right.
So did Lee Colbert, and there was a few other players that were on the market, and they chose North Melbourne. It just goes to show when you're winning games, winning premierships, clubs will nominate you to come to.
Yeah, I think Matthew Armstrong as well from Fitzroy. It was a big good midfielder at the time.
It was, absolutely.
Yeah, so Keenan Reynolds was
Yeah,
another player. He didn't work out, but he was still a player that was up and coming
And chose us, yeah.
Yeah. So we definitely were able to get the free agents back then. And like you said, it's funny what success can do. It's it can certainly attract players. Like Lee Colbert was captain of Geelong at the time when he decided he wanted to leave. So yeah, no.
And I remember Collingwood at the time were heavily into him. I remember Eddie McGuire making a comment on the Footy Show.
Yeah.
The next thing you know, he's chosen North Melbourne.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, no one wanted to go back. No one wanted to go to Collingwood back in those days. Or no one that was high profile as unless they were washed up like Denver Burke or something like that. So
that's right. But Shannon Grant was great for us. I mean, Norm Smith medalist and had a great career at North Melbourne. Shannon Grant with his left foot, so half forward, great player.
Very, very good player. An interesting fact is, Steve, I actually played a game of cricket with Shannon Grant back in. It would have been 2000s or something like that. So
was he a decent cricketer?
Oh, he was a gun. But he played one game and then went to train the next day and complained of a sore shoulder, and they said you can't play cricket again. So never seen him again after that. So, he was very. I think he's one of those people that you give him anything, he's just a natural athlete.
I could imagine. He's got a son coming through the ranks at Sandringham Dragons, I read just recently. So I think he's playing in the TAC Cup this coming season. So another name to watch out for.
Yeah, hopefully we'll hopefully we can get a good, a really good father-son. So yeah, that'll be nice. Now I mentioned before when Carey sort of saved the club. Now we're pretty close to getting a merger with Fitzroy back in 1996. There was obviously relocation talk to Gold Coast in 2007, which fell over as well. If either of those things happened, would you have still followed North? You think?
Absolutely, as long as the colours were still there. The royal blue and whites, absolutely. Look, the North Fitzroy Kangaroos that was the proposed name at the time. That would have kept us in Melbourne, and the North Kangaroos the name would have remained. So it would have been the North Fitzroy Kangaroos. So North and Kangaroos definitely would have followed that as well. Our move to the Gold Coast would have mirrored the South Melbourne to Sydney relocation, where you move as a club. Much different to the Fitzroy and Brisbane Lions takeover, where they just chose the 8 players and that was it. There was a huge difference there. South Melbourne, I do recall at the time, went as a whole footy club and became Sydney Swans. For Brisbane Bears and Brisbane Lions and Fitzroy, totally different. They just chose 8 players and that was it. Big difference in that. So, to answer your question, the North Fitzroy merger, definitely. Our move to the Gold Coast, as long as it was as an entire footy club, yes. If it was the same model as the Fitzroy Brisbane Bears, I reckon initially I would have struggled, to be honest.
Yeah. The other thing that was worrying me was that the AFL were just going to take over the club and have their own board, and it was almost just going to be. Your board, go aside. We're just going to take over this club from now on. So it would have been tough with the Gold Coast one. The Fitzroy one, I could understand at the time. That was very, very close. I think it was within 24 hours it would have happened until Brisbane really came in last second and swooped. And, I don't know if Fitzroy got the best deal out of that, to be honest with you, because it felt like the club really died. Like you said, I think it was only 8 players, wasn't it, or something like that?
8 players. I remember that clearly. I think the AFL were behind that one too, and I think a few clubs were bit noisy at the time that would become too powerful and successful. So I think behind the scenes, the AFL just pushed for the Brisbane Fitzroy merger. And I remember Ron Casey being on the Footy Show. Being so destroyed.
Yeah, I remember that too. He wasn't very happy, was he?
No. So.
Yeah. Oh, well. Another moment in history was early 2000s. Do you remember what you were doing in 2002 when the whole Wayne Carey news broke about the Kelly Stevens affair?
Yeah, look, I was at work at the time. I was at work at QB Workers' Compensation back then, and a close friend of mine called me. His name's Steve Gretsch. He called me and to say North had sacked Wayne Carey. I thought he was having a go. I just couldn't believe him. I thought he was just, having a joke with me or whatever else. So I was in complete shock. And then I snuck onto the internet back then, and it was all over the internet. I just couldn't believe it. So I was quite upset about the whole situation for, Anthony Stevens and the family and all the close friends involved and supporters and everything. It was such a disappointment for our footy club. And then, further from that, I hated seeing Wayne Carey in Adelaide Crows jumper and playing against us.
Yeah.
And he'll always be a North Melbourne person. But just seeing him play against us and that Friday night with Glenn Archer and Steve-O, that's a game, that I won't forget. So, but it was totally disappointing for the whole club. Yeah, I mean, and I remember earlier that year, that pre-season, that they were reporting that Wayne Carey looked the best ever. So he was primed to have a great season in 2002 or 2003, whatever it was. And it's a shame that he had to move on. But then again, from that deal, we got Daniel Wells out of that deal anyway. So I think we did quite well.
Yeah, that's right. Because I think it was originally picked. It was supposed to be pick 4, but because Carlton had that whole salary cap scandal, it went up to pick 2, and we got Daniel Wells.
Correct. It was a great play for us.
Yeah, I remember that pre-season. Even Wayne Carey said in his book it's probably the best he's ever felt, body-wise, and he looked good in the pre-season. I thought we're a big chance to have really one final run, another premiership, and unfortunately, when all that happened.
Look, a friend of mine at the time, Paul Hamilton, played for Essendon. I used to look at Paul years ago. We last caught up a few years back. But I remember him telling me at the time, this is the best Wayne Carey's ever looked. Yeah. And he goes, just watch out this season. And a month later, all the news broke out. So, there you go.
I mean, looking at that, Anthony Stevens and Glenn Archer, they sort of galvanised the club back then and brought it together. I mean, I suppose it's gone full circle now. We've got young Jackson Archer playing for North, and now River Stevens coming to the club as well. It's it makes us feel old a bit, doesn't it, Steve?
It does. I remember seeing these boys playing under 19s footy and whatever else, and making their debut at North Melbourne, and now we're seeing virtually their sons in their second, third, fourth year of footy, like, I don't know, Boomer Harvey's boy, and even Scott's boy as well on the wing for us. He's been in the system 5 or 6 years now, Bailey Scott. So
that's right.
Robert Scott's boy. So just having
he was a good player too, wasn't he, Robert Scott? I didn't mind him.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, he played well in the premiership year. He was very good for us. Good runner, and I think I forgot what the trade was. There was a trade. We traded somebody for Robert Scott. So I can't remember exactly who.
Brad Scholl? Was it Brad Scholl?
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think it was Brad Scholl.
He turned to be a good player for Geelong as well.
Yeah, he definitely did. He couldn't get a game at us, but when he went over to Geelong, he made a career of himself.
Oh, did
he? Yeah, back pocket. Yeah.
So we had a few father and sons lately. We've got another one coming through actually in about 2 years' time. Jason McCartney's boy. There's big raps on him. Big centre forward.
Apparently that's next year. I think it might be coming
2026.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But would you believe he's in the Sydney Swans Academy? So we might suffer the same deal as we did with Blakey's boy. Surely not. Surely not.
Apparently he's keen to get to Melbourne, so I'm holding out hope here. Yeah,
I don't trust the AFL with the Sydney Swans though. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, his dad's at GWS, so I don't know. I don't think he'd want him to play for the Sydney Swans. So.
Oh, I'm nervous.
I definitely are. We don't have a history of having good luck with this, so
no. The Brayshaws just goes on and on and on.
Yeah. But, what can you do? Who have been some of your favourite players over the time? Not necessarily best players, but maybe a top 3 that you really liked.
Oh, Malcolm Blight was my first ever footy hero, so I love Malcolm Blight. Look, nice. Keith Gregg, and I've mentioned these guys before, Wayne Carey, Glenn Denning, Archer. I love Boomer Harvey, Wayne Schimmelbush, that is. I loved Wayne Schwass on the wing. Schwatter, great player for North Melbourne. Shannon Grant, Mick Martin, the fullback. I'll just drink a few more off. I'll just think of a random one. Peter German. Love Peter German. Number 29 midfielder. Kicks goals and would run to 50 from 50 metres out. Would always dob them and get a lot of footy, like with Matty Larkin. These are players in the mid 80s. Larkin and German, Ross Smith. These type of players. They were quite good players for us, and it's a pity none of those three players made it to the premiership side for us in '96. I think Ross Smith was an emergency. But
he played in the reserves premiership team. Yeah,
he did. But Matty Larkin, Peter German, they used to be their best players every week in the mid '80s, late '80s, early '90s.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Peter German was a very underrated player.
Very underrated.
He was a very good wingman. Matthew Larkin was a very good player in the late 80s when we had no one else really in the team. So
he won four best and fairest, Matthew Larkin.
That's
People
right.
forget that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but unfortunately, he won him when we were a really poor team, and people always forget what we were like in the 80s. Unfortunately,
it's funny. Like we've been poor for the last 3-4 years, but in the 80s and early 90s, we were never poor. We just kind of mid-tier.
Yeah,
like I remember we'd beat the lower teams and struggle against the more successful teams. That's how it was back then, till Pagan turned up and things just changed.
No, I think Dawn of Mayhem has come in. Most underrated player we've ever had, Craig Scholl, the doctor. Yeah, he was
absolutely.
He was a very good full forward. After being a very good defender for a number of years, he was a very
wingman.
And a wingman.
Definitely.
Yeah, he was.
Scholl's cousin, two-time premiership player. And I think his last game for North, I think he kicked the bag of 6 or 7.
Kicked 7, against Melbourne.
That's right.
Yeah, we got smashed in the prelim. I think it was 2000. Right. Yeah, but he was outstanding. He kicked 7 that day. Probably one of his best games. But
played on.
Probably should have for another year or two. But,
that's right.
Yeah, he's a very, very underrated player. I like that one. So thanks for chiming in there, Dawn. Now, this is a question that I do like to ask. Some players that you didn't rate, Steve.
Okay, I tend to shy away from criticising North play because I love North so much. But, it's always a huge effort to reach AFL. But Michael Passmore springs to mind, mid-80s, red-headed defender. Look, had a crack. Unfortunately, the fans used to get stuck into him. He was much maligned, Michael Passmore. Same era as German and Larkin and Ross Smith. They all came through together. Talking late 70s, I think the elder North supporters remember a Mario Turco, a West Australian guy.
Okay.
Jamie Stevenson is another. He wore the number 18 before Wayne Carey. He's a tall centre-half forward, Jamie Stevenson.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah, I'm talking back. Yeah, I'm going back years here.
I thought you said Jaden Stevenson there. So.
Jamie
Stevenson.
Forwards. All the number 18 before Wayne Carey. So
okay, there you go.
Glenn Dugdale and I'm just trying to think more recent ones. I'm just trying to think back, Dean. More recent ones. We've had a few, but where do you go? I suppose.
Yeah, we've sort of had a lot of those players. We've trying to get players from other clubs that couldn't get a game and so forth. We try to resurrect their careers.
Like Lance Piccioni and a few others.
Yeah, Ben McKinley. They were done.
Coast, yeah.
Yeah, but
one or two. There was a guy from Essendon, an Indian heritage guy. I've got his surname. Got him for 1 or 2 years. His surname is Morgan.
Alex Morgan.
That's the guy.
Yeah. No, did he? I don't think he played a game. Did he?
He played 2 or 3 games, I remember. And like I said, it's a huge effort to make AFL. But we've recruited a lot of those players, Krovats and these type of players. They'll play their 2 or 3 seasons on the list, but unfortunately, they've not made a significant difference.
Yeah, Dawn of Mayhem's come in. Shane Clayton is very lucky to be a premiership player. He was okay.
He was. A lot of the footy, premiership player, played almost 100 games. He actually played 99 games for them.
Yeah, he played 99, He's actually had very good running capacity.
He did.
He used to run from wing to wing. Didn't use the ball too well or anything
he didn't.
like that.
They still call him Mr. Stinky because no player went next to him. He got that much of the footy.
Yeah, he found a lot of space. That's for sure. He was
from the Fitzroy merger. He was one of those spill players.
Because we got him because I think he got delisted and we got him for like in the late 90s. And Dennis Pagan used to like him, so that's all that mattered.
Pagan loved him. It was Pagan's pick. He played him each week and played in the premiership team.
No, well, that's right. So not a bad career in the end. So he did quite well. Some of your favourite games over the time, Steve?
Oh, where do I start? Okay. Well, 1999 grand final, my first ever grand final, would you believe? Because I missed 1996 because I was living in London at the time. I was devastated. I was living in London for 2 years, so I missed 1996 premiership win. I was living and working in London, and I remember watching it live at like 4 a.m. in London, and I was just like, it felt like your team won a flag, but you were out injured. That's what it felt like. I didn't fully,
I like it.
Yeah, it's exactly what it felt like. So, 1999 was my first ever premiership win. I was there the year before, but let's not talk about 1998. I was absolutely devastated in 1998. Best side all year. But anyway, 1999 was great. Another one comes to mind, 1985 elimination final against Carlton at Waverley. We were like 5 goals down at half time and got up and won by about 19 points, 20 points. John Kennedy's first year as coach, Larkin, German, Ross Smith, these type of players. There was a great game at Waverley. And there's a famous picture of Wayne Schimmelbusch and John Kennedy embracing each other. And it's at the club, this picture, actually. And Schimmer looks absolutely exhausted. That was from the 1985 elimination final. Another game, you might remember this, Dean, 1993, we beat Collingwood at Victoria Park by 83 points. McAdam kicked 9.
Yeah, I remember that one. That was
the best days ever.
Yeah, that was a good game. I reckon I ordered the VHS tape back then. I used to watch it every day after school. I reckon there for about 3 months.
Sensational, yeah.
And they had a very good team. They had Francis,
Kevin Brown, all these guys. Mickey Gay for playing on McAdam and Kelly and Starcevich had all these blokes. And that was a great day. Wayne Carey kicked a few. I remember Fridge Roberts and John Longmire.
Yeah, John Longmire kicked a few that day as well.
Did.
I think. Yeah. And we kicked a big score.
We did.
And we kept them, I think we kept them to 4 goals or something like that. So,
back in 93, one of my favourite years, 93, and we used to kick 20 goals each week. Mark Roberts, Carey, McAdam, Longmire, Brett Allison. A lot of firepower back then.
Yeah, no, that was because that was the year of the Adelaide game in the pre-season where we lost by 25 goals and we lost Schimmelbusch, and then Pagan came in and he sort of said, "No, look, I'm just going to keep it simple, get the ball in quickly to the forwards," and
And all the North players from his under-19 days as well, like Anthony Rock and, I mean, 3/4 of the list were all from his boys in under-19s. So just a natural fit. But another game I do remember clearly. You remember this. I think most listeners would remember this game. 2014 elimination final against Essendon.
Oh, yeah.
Another great game. Coming back from like 33 points down in the second half, and Drew Petrie's 2 wonderful goals to seal the game, and the Frank the Tank celebration, and that was sensational. What a night.
It's iconic, that celebration, isn't it? So
it is.
Yeah, it sort of just came out of nowhere because he was very quiet the whole game, Drew Petrie, and just had that minute of football in the last quarter, and won us the game. Yeah, that was it probably ranks as far as one of the best wins I've seen.
Absolutely,
especially in the final, and considering they haven't won a final in 20 odd years,
exactly.
It makes it even better.
Exactly.
So some good games.
And probably the last one I'll mention is probably one the year after. We beat Richmond elimination final in front of 90,000 people in 2000.
Yeah, that's
that
right.
Game when Ben Jacobs tagged, was it Deludio or
Cochin?
Cochin, yeah.
He kept him to, I think, single-figure possessions for the game after he's probably averaging 25 for the year. That's when Ben Jacobs became known as a tagger, and
exactly.
And then the next week I think we beat the Swans up there, and it sort of snowballed.
Lost the West Coast in the prelim, and if we beat West Coast,
you never know. We got screwed by the umpires.
We did.
Steve.
We did. Absolutely.
Yeah, they didn't help us.
Talk about that, us North supporters.
Yeah, I still talk about it. I still haven't moved on. It's like talking about your ex-girlfriend from 20 years ago or something like that. So, I
understand.
It gets like that sometimes. But
exactly.
Yeah. Now, recent history suggests we've had a bit of a tough time in the last 5 years. Do you think we can turn it around slowly in 2025, Steve?
For sure. Look, things can change quickly. Western Bulldogs win a flag, and Richmond, and these clubs came back from near the bottom of the ladder, similar to our situation. So things can turn around quickly. Look, I can see George Wardlaw, Colby McKercher, Tom Powell, Paul Curtis, Charlie Comben, Jackson Archer reaching another level next season. And then you're looking at Harris Sheasel, LDU, Simpkin, Larkey, Tristan Sherry, Zerha even, who have consistent years next year without any injury, and you'd hope 1, 2 or 3 of those players can reach All-Australian status. This is all about improvement next year. These players are set to go to reach elite status, especially Sheasel, LDU, Larkey. Sherry's come from nowhere this year. And I also believe our recruits, Dean, Caleb Daniel, Luke Parker, Jack Darling. They're going to provide experience and leadership to our young list, which we've craved for in the last 2 or 3 years. They're going to make a huge difference. They'll play their role the 2 or 3 years like Birchall did at Brisbane, Luke Hodge at Brisbane. Those 3 recruits are going to play their role this next season, year after. And they'll help the Wardlaws, McCurches, Curtises, Comptons reach another level with their standard performance, consistency, and whatever. So, and then we've got our 2nd to 3rd year players like Dersma, Riley Hardiman looks $1 million at the moment. Will Dawson's put on 13 kilos. Robert Anson Jr., who finished the year quite well, I believe. They hope they can develop into regular, consistent team players and play their roles. And let's not forget, we've got Griffin Logue, Miller Bergman, Josh Goder, Braden George, even Cooper Harvey, returning from injury-disrupted seasons. If they can play their 10, 12 games again, it's all about getting to the next level in development. So, and then Finn Sullivan, I think, will add something different to our midfield with his speed and lateral movements. Something different to our midfield. And there was huge raps on Finn Sullivan. Last year they were talking about his pick 1. He's missed a few games with injury this year, but we got him at pick 2, and I was happy with that. More than happy, actually. So that's where our improvement will come next year.
So you're pretty much written us in for a flag next year, Steve, by the sounds of it?
Oh, not next year. Let's aim towards 27.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so you're kind of happy with how the list is looking now going into 2025, particularly after the trade and draft period?
I thought we were one key position to play short in the trade period or drafts. But look, Matty Whitlock plays both ends. Apparently, we rated him quite highly. We rated him at pick 15, hence why we, traded our first pick for next year. So I'm quite happy with our list. And a lot of the average supporter wouldn't know about that. Our young, 2nd and 3rd year players like Miller Bergman or Josh Goder, who missed most of this year with an Achilles. If he wasn't injured this year, I bet he would have played nearly every game. He was ready to go. And Will Dawson, Zane Dersma, these type of players.
Zane Dersma's certainly got a lot of talent. So does Will. Definitely got some interceptability. I mean, it might be another 12 to 24 months of these kids developing before we can really go to that next.
Exactly. Even when we win 6 to 8 or 10 games next year, that'll be huge. And I can see us doing that, provided we're injury-free. I mean,
I think that's a key, isn't it, Steve? Yeah. Like, we probably don't have the depth to cover, 3 or 4 players because you're throwing in kids after that. So I think that's a key. If we can stay healthy, then you're probably looking at 6 to 8 wins. Yeah,
exactly. I totally agree, Dean. Totally agree. A lot to look forward to.
Yeah, definitely. Very exciting list. Who are some of your current favourite players? You mentioned a few, Malcolm Blights and all that before, as far as past history.
Past players.
Past players. But what about currently?
Luke Davis-Uniacke, one of my favourite players, and I'm hopeful. All the noise so far is going to re-sign and avoid free agency. Yeah. I'll be shattered if he moves on, but I'm confident. What I'm hearing at the moment is going to stay, so that's great. Pay him what he wants, just keep him. Can't afford to lose LDU. He's at his prime at the moment, so injury-free next year. We'll win games. He's the type of player that can be our next Brownlow medalist, to be honest. Love Harry Sheasel. Decision-making, neat skills, can play midfield, back, forward. Our next captain, I believe, one of my other favourites. Love George Wardlaw, just the way he goes about it. Then there's Nick Larkey and Tristan Sherry. As we both share the same Maltese heritage. There you go for Tristan Sherry. So I've always followed him closely. So he had a great year this year. So I think surprised most North supporters with his rapid development this year.
Yeah, I think, he probably surprised himself, to be honest with you, how far he came along. I mean, he's almost been unlucky to miss out on All-Australian.
Should have been All-Australian. All-Australian. Tackles, gets 20 touches each week. He tackles and kicks goals and marks up forward and does all the hard work. He's a 5th midfielder, really, at centre bounce.
Yeah, no, definitely looking forward to seeing if he can even take another step forward next year. Yeah. But he's almost turned into Max Gawn within 12 months.
Correct. And another special mention from my current favourite player, I've got to mention Will Phillips, right? Now, I'm really barracking for this kid. All my friends and the chat group I'm involved with will tell you this. I'm really barracking for Will Phillips. We invested a quite high draft pick in the national draft at pick 3. Our recruiters loved his leadership at the time. look, I like his kicking disposal to 50. He's got quick hands. He tackles. He was quite effective as a tagger this year. All he needs is a run at it, really. So give him his 5 to 10 games, consecutive games, and I could imagine him transitioning from a tagger to a regular midfielder. So you'd hate to burn such an early pick. Us finishing near the bottom of the ladder for the last 5 years, these early picks, you've got to make them work. And I'm really barracking for Will Phillips. A lot of footy fans would forget he missed 2 years of footy. His draft year because of COVIDs, and he missed a year with Glandular fever in his second year of footy with us. So I really believe next year is his year. He looks amazing at the moment. He looks quite ripped and fit, and I saw pictures of him on our website a few weeks ago. Yeah. So hopefully, I know a lot of supporters may have a different opinion, but I'm barracking for Will Phillips. Hopefully next year he'll play his 22 or 23 or 24, 25 games for us. We'll make the finals, but who knows? But I'm really hoping, fingers crossed, things work out for Will Phillips. And he seems to love the club. He gets behind the AFLW, cheering him on. He's a North person, as he keeps saying. So fingers crossed for Will Phillips.
Yeah, I mean, just on that, we might as well talk about him. Whose place? I mean, because we've got a lot of depth in the midfield. I mean, you talk about Sheasel, LDU. You mentioned before as one of your favourite players. Wardlaw, Simpkin, McKerch is probably going to go through there. It's going to be it's going to be tough for him to get in, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and you want to midfield the bats deep as well. And like Simpkin can play half forwards. There's always injuries and suspensions.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So you need to bat deep as well. And there's a few other midfielders that can play off half back or half forward or in the wing even. So, you bank on a deep midfield or the rotation as well, as Clarkson had at Hawthorn as well, or Brisbane Lions in their premiership years as well, as a rotate with the midfield through 7, 8 midfielders, and the Bulldogs did it as well. So hopefully that's our path.
No, look, hopefully, if he gets that opportunity, I mean, I guess he's just got to take it with both hands.
Make it break next year.
And that's right. He's only signed a 1-year contract as well. So it either happens or it doesn't. And like you said, he seems like a really high character individual. I think everyone wants to get behind him, and hopefully he can certainly make it happen and take his opportunity when it comes. Did you get behind the AFLW this year, the AFLW team?
I did. I followed it closely for most of the year, the scores and everything else. I went to the grand final, actually, and that was a great atmosphere. Great atmosphere. Yeah. Just sitting in the stand there and just all North supporters cheering, singing the song. It was a great experience, And I said to many of my friends, it's probably my most favourite North Melbourne game I've attended in the last 5 years, to be honest.
Yeah, probably similar with me. I mean, we'll talk a little bit about the grand final. I mean, it was a very dominant display, wasn't it, Steve? Outside of probably the first 5 minutes of the game where Brisbane had a little bit of momentum, but once we kicked that first goal and we settled into the game, there was only going to be one winner, wasn't there? Absolutely.
And Emma Carney's leadership, the way I thought she would have been the best on ground, but she played so well. And I was kept an eye on her, the way she was organising the defenders and pointing here and pointing there. Her leadership in that game was exceptional. Yeah. And just as well, we got her back after injury. I thought she made a huge difference.
Yeah, look, she was probably best on ground in the first half, but then Jasmine Garner just took over in the second half.
Superstar, 35 touches and
Yeah, 22 in the second half. I can't remember, 12 contested or something like that. It was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, she's not a bad player, is she?
Nah, exactly. She's a very good player. So missed out on their equivalent to the Brownlow medal again. So a bit stiff. She only got the 12 votes, which I couldn't believe.
Well, she didn't get her first vote till round 6.
Incredible.
Yeah,
incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty similar to the year before as well. So I'm not too sure what she does wrong, but
I was happy for Crocs. I mean, Darren Crocker is one of the lovely blokes in North Melbourne. Would always say hello and everything else, and I was so happy for Crocs to be our first ever AFLW premiership coach.
No, it's definitely taken a club, the team to a whole new level. In particular, in the last 2 or 3 years, he's rebuilt the list very well. And he's built a very good culture there as well. So, full credit to him.
All the players rave about him. All the ladies I've listened to on SCN or whatever else, they just rave about Darren Crocker.
Yeah, no, they do rate him high. He does build relationships, which is probably the most important thing as far as coaching probably this day and age. I mean, tactics play a part, but I think it can be a bit overdrawn. I've listened to, not listened. I've read a couple of books, and even Sir Alex Ferguson, one of the greatest managers in English history, said he was a pretty average tactician, but he knew how to build relationships with players, which was the most important thing. He said.
Sir Alex,
John Wooden, one of the great, college basketball coaches. Always said that, I was pretty average as far as drawing up plays and stuff like that, but I knew how to build relationships. So, and I think Darren Crocker's got that. He certainly knows how to build relationships, and it's very different with coaching, girls as opposed to when he was coaching the men's program there for a number of years. So,
absolutely, and being such a new competition as well, like 5 or 6 years old, and absolutely, it's challenging. And now we're seeing the best of it keeps improving the standard, because we're seeing now the girls that are coming in that have been drafted, they've been playing since Auskick as 8-year-olds. So the standard's improving, and that's great for us, North Melbourne, as well. So hopefully we can go back to back next year. I see we've recruited some Richmond player.
Ola Sheeran, she's
that's
very
the one.
quiet.
That's the one. So fingers crossed.
No, they'll be right up there next year. I've got no doubt about that. Steve, where can people follow you if they want to chat all things North?
Okay, well, I'm on Facebook. I love my Facebook social media.
Nice.
I'm on Instagram, steve.briffer. I'm also on Twitter or X at SJBEA70. And I'm also in a chat group, and our chat group is called In Clarko We Trust. And I've been in this chat group for about, 3-4 years now. And not word of a lie, we communicate nearly every day. We share news, and shout out to Matty Saliba, Anth Gatt, Anth Vella, Gavin Wignall, Steve Lowison, Emilio and Oatsy, and there's about another 10 of us in there. And we sit at the footy together, and anything North Melbourne, we just share it on our chat group. And I can tell you, it runs every day. There's not one day where there's no content. There's something like I'll copy and paste something from Twitter and I put on the chat group, and that's then we share it around, and our comments and even like come trade time, it was just flat out all our opinions and attitudes and everything and feedback, and it's a lot of fun. It's called In Clarko We Trust, the chat group, and it's a lot of fun.
No, that's good, and that's what it's all about, the relationships you build within football, your friendships and so forth, because I mean, you probably only catch up with these people when you go to footy games.
Actually, we catch up every away game interstate. We catch up at a local pub at the local hotel, and we just all watch the game together. Have a meal, have a few drinks, and just watch the game together.
Yeah, nice. Well, that's good to hear, Steve. Make sure to keep that going. So
Westwaters and Caroline Springs. Normally we catch up at Westwaters, at Caroline Springs there. So it's a lot of fun.
Good on you, Steve. In Clarko, we must trust. That's
the chat group. Yeah.
Did you want to add anything else before I let you go, Steve?
No, like I said, Dean, I've listened to your podcast from day one back in 2021. I walk every morning and I put my AirPods on and I listen to everything North Melbourne. Your podcast and other 3 podcasts as well. So let's stick together, North supporters. Our time is coming, I believe. Like I've mentioned before, our recruits, our draftees, our 2nd, 3rd, 4th year players. There's so much to look forward to. We've got the best coach in the business in Alistair Clarkson. We've got a sound administration, and I'm looking forward to the good times.
Yeah. I'm sure they're just around the corner too, Steve. But listen, thanks so much for coming on. I know we've been in contact a little bit over the last few weeks. Thanks for understanding yesterday as well. I was a late withdrawal, so I didn't have an emergency to come in and take over from me. So unfortunately, but
never too late. Never too late, Dean.
No, that's it. So thank you for your patience there, Steve. And I really appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate it, Dean. Thanks again for the opportunity, and go North.
Sounds good. Thanks for coming on, mate. Thank you to all you lovely listeners as well. Make sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends. I might be able to get another episode out this week, so look out for that if it does happen. If it doesn't, I'll probably be back next week. But that's it for now. Bye for now, and go Roos. Thanks, mate. Thanks for coming on.
Dean, I appreciate